Well, I hope it'll be worth the wait. It's a little difficult to keep track of your own story when you get completely immersed in everyone else's, but I think it'll work. So when I had my Beit Din, which is a court of law before 3 rabbis as one step in the conversion process, my rabbi, Rabbi David, asked me to tell a little bit about what had drawn me to Judaism. That's a pretty standard question in a Beit Din. But then, he asked me to tell a story that I, until that moment, had forgotten I'd even told him. And I thought, oh my God, here come the white coats. These guys are going to wrap me up and haul me away. But Rabbi David is my mentor and my loving admittance into Judaism. So I told the story that he asked me to tell. And I'd like to share it with you tonight. When I was a little girl, and my mother was tucking me into bed, when she left the room, terror just took me, overwhelmed me. Not because of monsters under the bed or the dark. What scared me, what terrified me, were boots. Every night, from my left, I would hear rank upon rank of pounding boots coming closer and closer, louder and louder, until I would feel swept away, and I would find myself in a crowd, a huge crowd of people, clinging to the skirts of a woman, my eyes just above her knees, as row upon row of shiny black, knee-high, in-formation boots went past us down a broad, wide stone thoroughfare, a place I had never seen. My mother would pull us back into the crowd, and the me in this vision was confused because I was mesmerized by these shiny boots, yet I was frightened by my mother's fear. And little Steffi, lying rigid in bed, would know, absolutely know beyond a shadow of any doubt, that those boots had come and would come to tear me from my parents and kill me. Sometimes I would scream, and my mother would come running. She would take me in her arms and she would say, "It's okay, sweetie, it's just a dream." "No," I would say, "I wasn't asleep. It's the boots. The boots are coming. They're going to kill me." She couldn't give me any solace. I don't really remember exactly when these visions stopped every night, but I think it was when I was about the age that I was in the visions, between maybe 4 and 6 years old. But what never left me was the memory of a smothering heat. Not fire, but a heat so intense that it was a heavy pressure against my chest that I couldn't even raise my chest against it to breathe. And with that was a stench, this indescribable stench that was so awful. You wouldn't want to breathe it in. It was like poison. I do know, however, that when I was, my rabbis in the Beit Din told me that they had heard stories like this before. And they wondered, did I think that I might have been a child of the Holocaust? Maybe. I can't know. And I don't feel like I can claim that because it would feel disrespectful to people who carry in their living bodies the memory of these horrors that they endured. But what I do know is that from my earliest memory, I longed for my people. That was my words for it, my people. I knew that I should be surrounded by layer upon layer of people who loved me, who cared for me, who nurtured and taught me, and they weren't there. Where were they? When I was 3, I worked up my courage one night and went to my mother as she chopped vegetables for dinner. I said, "Mama, where are my people?" She said, "Sweetie, we're your people. We're your family." No, I said. No, you were my family, but you are not my people. Where are my people? She didn't know what I was asking. I know that when I was 8 years old and I first heard the word Jewish, not knowing what Jewish was at all, I instantly felt this warm, honeyed sunlight fill me, and I knew that's my people. Where do I find my people? I got no answer. When I was in my early 20s and the call to synagogue grew strong, I was terrified of it because I knew that if I entered a synagogue, I would be killed. Not I would die, I would be killed. And even now, sometimes sitting in services here, I will suddenly feel all the hair on my body raise. I hear an angry mob outside, and I feel the shattering of the windows, and that we are all in danger. I have to remind myself where I am and that I'm safe. I also know that when I walked into Havra Shir Hadash, I came here, I didn't know it was a synagogue. I was new to Ashland. I saw this little blurb in the paper about this sort of workshop that was going to happen. Thought it sounded great. I'll go. It wasn't until I pulled my car into the parking lot and I saw the Star of David, and I thought, oh. And then I thought to myself, you might be okay. It's not a service. You're only here for a class. It's nothing Jewish. It's okay. So I walked in that door. And when I came in the door and came around, my eyes, absolutely my whole being magnetized to this ark. I didn't know the ark, what it was. I didn't know that the Torah was in the ark. I didn't know what the Torah was. All I knew was that here, I felt that warm, honeyed sunlight, that presence that I had felt my whole life within me and with me, that had loved me and cared for me, and by whom I knew I was chosen and protected. I had never found that anywhere except in nature at times. I came back the next night to services only because I knew that if I didn't, I never would. And so when I brought myself here, I stood not knowing anything, and I felt my mouth moving in a language that I didn't remember remembering. And later being told that I was actually chanting the prayers in Hebrew correctly. Yeah, I said. Don't know how that's happening. I remember when the Amidah came, and without any translation, I knew that it was time to stand and pray. And I don't know if you've ever had an experience like this, but as I stood, I felt like a great upwelling wave of something pushing up through me that wanted to pray. It was so intense, it literally rose in my body until I finally had to say, okay, whoever, whatever you are, you pray. And in my inner vision, I saw an old woman, a great-great-grandmother, putting a shawl over her head, focusing my eyes on the ark, and with her tears streaming down my cheeks, she prayed, please let me come home to my ancient God. Please let me bring them home. Please, to my ancient God, take me back. I have never, before or since, experienced such a profound longing. And so I converted in this life to bring my whole self back to that warm, honeyed sunlight that I knew to be home. And what I have experienced since is that the prayers are like music moving through me. This community of Jewish people throughout Ashland have held me and nurtured me and accepted me and loved me through thick and thin in the way that I longed for and when I remembered my people when I was a child. This is also the only place in my life among Jews where for once I knew that my personality was not overwhelming and my opinions were not too strong. I am very grateful